watching A+ Sim Racing. My name is Ken, the host of this channel. In this video, we'll be taking a look at an online race I had in the new LeMans Ultimate. My apologies in advance for the lower graphic qualities. My GPU is a bit old, so in order to get a consistent frame rate, I did have to turn most of the settings all the way down to the lowest, except for some anti-aliasing and texture filtering. So here we are then at Spa-Francorchamps, waiting for the formation lap to begin. It's just the end of the formation lap. You can see some of the drivers are getting impatient and rolling and revving their engines and such. It is a bit of a wait, so we'll just skip ahead to the point where we start moving. Right, here we go then. So I'm going to follow the car in front through the chicane, wait for the green signal, and we're all set to go. Now, one thing I didn't realize when we started this is that whoever's on pole position can choose when to start accelerating. They can delay until they get the green, or they can just start going, and they started to go, and I didn't realize that they were doing that, so I kind of fell behind a little bit. And there we go, the race has officially started. Going into turn one, they get a little bit too close to the Aston Martin and get them a bit of a bump, and that may have been the reason they lost traction there on the exit, so I do apologize for that, Mr. Gump. I do feel bad for that, but all I can do is move forward and try and make the most out of this race. And now we test our nerves as we go up through Eau Rouge Radion with cold tires for the first lap. We got through it fine. It looks like everyone behind got through it fine. But P1 and 2 have pulled a bit of a gap on the rest of us, so I'm going to try and do my best to close that gap and open up one to the cars behind. And coming into Lacombe for the first time, it looks like I've done just that, and now I'm going to try and maintain that gap behind and close the one to the cars in front. Coming into Bruxelles and then no-name turn for lap 1 makes me a little bit nervous because I'm not that good at those turns, so I'm just going to try and take it easy. And let's fast forward to the end of the first lap now. Coming into the chicane for the first time, I have opened up a substantial gap to the cars behind and closed the one to the car in front, and P2 makes a bit of a mistake, gets it sideways on the curb coming out of the chicane, and that works to my advantage. And while I'd rather gain a position from a proper pass, I'll take what I can get. I've handed out many a free position in the past, so it's about time I take some back. And now as we head down the hill for the second time towards Eau Rouge and Radion, maintaining that gap to the car in front and P3 behind. P4 is a little bit further behind them, so I'm in a comfortable position. All I'm going to focus on is moving forward and closing that gap to P1. And now let's skip ahead to the end of the lap, and we'll see that the gap behind is closed a little bit. It looks like they're better than me on the brakes into the chicane, so now I've got some pressure. While I'm really trying to close the gap to the car in front, I can't ignore the cars behind.
Me too. The guy behind has just done a 218.37.
And hearing crew chief tell me the lap time of the driver behind just adds to the pressure a little bit. Makes it a bit harder to focus on closing the gap to the car in front. Let's skip ahead a bit to the end of the Camel Straight coming into Lacombe. You can see I've got the fastest Sector 1 so far, but the cars behind are also closing the gap while I close in on P1. And for the rest of the lap, we all try and close the gap to the car in front, and P1 up there gotta be feeling the pressure at this point, hearing their crew chief, if they have one, saying the cars behind are closing in. I'm also very aware at this point that the cars behind me are closing in, but they're very close to each other and seem to be battling it out, defending and attacking. So that's going to work out in my favor, while I can just focus on getting forward and trying to find places where I can close the gap more and maybe set myself up for an overtake. Let's skip ahead to the end of lap 4, where I've closed the gap down to P1, but P3 has also closed the gap down to me. But if you'll take a look at the rear view mirror, you'll see that they have problems of their own, with P4 trying to line up for an attack on them. And now we start lap 5 coming into turn 1. You can see that P1 ahead locks up, and if you look in the mirror behind, you can see the other Porsches locked up, but they're still on the inside line, and it looks like they're going to get to position. But there's still 2 laps left in this race. Anything can happen. Further into lap 5 coming into Bruxelles, I'm still trying to close the gap to P1 in front while opening one to the cars behind while they duke it out. and it looks like P1 is feeling a bit of pressure and gets it a bit wide on the exit, and this is the time where I'm going to really try and focus and not make mistakes of my own. At this point, I've got P2 in the bag. All I've got to do is hold it steady and I'll be on that podium. It looks like we've got a car up ahead, and I'm so glad they weren't a bit further on the track, or I really would have had to slow down to avoid them, but I managed to keep my foot in the whole time. Didn't slow me down at all. Coming into campus, I'm really starting to close that gap. It looks like I'm putting some pressure on P1, then getting some tires in the dirt there, making some small mistakes. And let's skip ahead now to the end of lap 6, when I'm right on their tail coming out of the chicane. Move over to the left so they can see that I'm not planning on overtaking. I'm going to try and work with them. I just want to keep that gap open for the cars behind and maintain my position on the podium. I'm thinking right now I've got a pretty good thing going. I don't want to do anything too risky and mess it up. Coming up to Eau Rouge and Radillon, pulling a gap on the cars behind, so that's giving me a bit of comfortable space, and I'm right behind P1 here. I could stay in the slipstream if I wanted to make a move into Lacombe, but my plan here is just to maintain position and get on that podium, secure the finish, and not take any risks. So I'm trying to demonstrate that I'm not willing to attack them at this point. I just want to work with them, pull away from the cars behind, and get to the end of the race. But it looks like they've made a couple mistakes coming in through Lacombe, and I've really closed that gap down, so I'm really starting to think about maybe whether I should be making a move. So here I'm just on the inside line testing to see if I'm able to outbrake them into that corner or not, and kind of getting in their head a little bit. And since I'm this close, if I can find a moment and take advantage of it, I'm going to go for it, because that car behind is really closed in on that gap. So now I'm really thinking about where and not if I'm going to make a move. And they're taking the defensive line into Pouin. That might give me an opportunity, and it looks like there's enough space. I'm going to pull up on the inside and see if I can get ahead. And I've got P1. Now all I have to do is get to the end of the race without making any mistakes, and hopefully I don't have to go on the defense, because that'll just slow me right down. So I'm just going to try and do my best to put my head down and push forward. Got a bit of curb on the inside and almost ran wide on the outside. That got me a little bit nervous. I'm really trying to focus here. I feel the rear slipping as I come out of that onto the back straight here, but good thing nothing happened. At this point, my heart's racing, my mouth is dry, and I'm thinking just make it to the end in one piece. Don't lock up the brakes coming into the chicane. Don't be too greedy on the throttle coming out of the chicane, and just get it to the line. Here we go into the chicane, nice and easy. Add a little bit of the inside sausage. Keep it to the inside on the exit to cut it off so no one can get in front of me, and P1 is secured. Now this kind of thing doesn't happen for me very often, so I really enjoyed this one. Savor the moment. Victory is mine! Let's spin the car around and then flash the lights at everyone else, because I don't know how to chat in game to say good race everybody. And here are the classified results of the race. You can see the top 3 finishing within 2 seconds of each other. It may not be a photo finish, but that's still a pretty close race. So when I qualified P3, I thought, this is my best chance to get on the podium. Just take it easy, don't do anything risky, and get to the end of this race. But when I got to the end of this race, I was pleasantly surprised. And if you followed this channel for any time, you'll know that this sort of thing doesn't happen too often, so I'll be riding this high for a while. Well, that's all for now. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. Take care, and I'll see you next time.